Today in the France 24 debate, Obama fatigue, and here to talk about it with us, from Washington, Walid Phares, professor at National Defense University. Thank you for being with us. Or in Bucharest, excuse me. You're also on the out and about. First of all, Walid, what are you doing in Bucharest?
Well, there's that big meeting of members of the European Parliament over the issues of the Black Sea, but they wanted to have a view on the Arab Spring as well. So I'm lecturing as well here to your east this time, not to your west.
Walid, did you get a chance to catch Barack Obama's speech?
Oh yes, absolutely. We listened to the speech and of course the reactions that are coming now from the region and also from within the United States, absolutely.
Tell us what you think.
Well, look, I mean, it's not a secret to anyone who is involved or analyzes or observes, American politics and international relations and the link. When the president said that last year he committed or he opened the path for what he thought could become a Palestinian state, two things did not happen. Were not happening yet. One is the Arab Spring. This is a huge development that has not ended yet. I mean, there are things in the Arab Spring that are positive, but there are things that are still very worrisome in many places, on the one hand. So he spent a lot of his energy, he and his foreign policy team, on addressing the Arab Spring. The other thing, it's just very domestic, and our representatives of the two parties can maybe confirm that. There has been a change in the majority in Congress. And that's maybe the most important signal for the president to be very careful in whatever he's going to say with regard to international relations. And this issue has domestic audience in America. So I think his speech is basically saying, I'm still committed to that Palestinian state. Excuse me, but I can't do it this year.
Barack Obama named a Mideast envoy, George Mitchell, just 2 days after his inauguration back in January 2009. Yet when Benjamin Netanyahu defied Obama, most notably by the surprise building of settlements during the visit of his Vice President Joe Biden, relations certainly turned frosty. Walid Phares, what can be done to bring those parties to the table at this point?
Well, there are two heavy facts that we need to focus on to understand where the conversation begins between Palestinians and Israelis. One is historical, which was mentioned 2 minutes ago, and the other one is regional. And we can't operate without those 2 points. The first one was, in 1947, yes, the United Nations voted for what we thought it would vote for this year, some 60 years later, which was Resolution 181, saying that there would be a Jewish state and there would be a Palestinian state. The Jewish state formed, it became Israel. The Palestinian state did not form for a variety of reasons and wars or what have you. The difference today is not the principle of 2 states. Everybody agrees, including the Israelis. It's the issue of the map that the PA is bringing to New York. And that map has territories and has half of Jerusalem in the Palestinian state, which is something that the Israelis have not agreed on. That's the bottom line. That's the difficulty of it. There is the other thing, Francois. Regionally speaking, did we notice that when the PA came to New York, which other force in the Middle East among the Palestinians said, anything you achieve there does not represent us? Hamas. So we have a split Palestinian position. One is coming with a map that the Israelis do not agree with, and the other is not even discussing any map because it doesn't want to have a 2-state solution, i.e. Hamas. So I think the task of the United States or President Sarkozy or others is not a minimal task by saying, well, in 1 year we're going to negotiate. It's really deep issues of disagreement between both sides.
Back in May, an opinion poll came out saying that the Obama's popularity in the Muslim world is pretty low. This, remember, is before this was before the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden. There you see those numbers for back in May, and this is of the view of the United States, and that's even lower. You can see those numbers. Those numbers in the case of Turkey and Pakistan lower than they were in 2003 when the U.S.-led war in Iraq was most unpopular in the Arab world. Walid Phares, do you agree that the United States is less popular in the Muslim world today than it was in 2003? Does that seem right to you?
Francois, I always had a view on how to frame these questions on these polls, in the sense that when you ask a question to someone sitting in Damascus or in Cairo, are you with or against the United States, and then collect about 1,200 of those, you are operating in an environment which is very pressured, which is very difficult to operate. It's not Sweden or France or New Zealand. in the sense that the Arab Spring today, most of the people who took to the streets in Cairo or in Tunisia or before that in Beirut and Tehran, they look at the United States. If it stands with them, with their calls for more freedom, then they are favorable. If at some point in time the United States would stand with the dictators, then they're going to be a negative attitude. Now, there has been this one central idea by many analysts that above all issues, the Arab-Israeli factor determines the view. I disagree with that. If you ask young Egyptians or young Syrians today, what is the most important thing on your agenda? For the Egyptians, it's the revolution. For the Syrians, it's to bring down Assad. Yes, of course, they agree at some point in time the Arab-Israeli conflict, the Palestinian cause, will have to be resolved. But I don't think we're getting the right image from the Middle East with regard to the measurement of how to look at the United States or how to look at President Obama for that matter.
Because you did mention at the outset, Walid, that the big thing that's changed in the past year is the Arab Spring. But the other change, you could say, is also the fact that there is a renewed worry of a financial crisis. And to a certain degree, is the U.S. and Barack Obama's star power in trouble because of it?
Well, all began when President Obama projected into the Middle East things that Middle Easterners, actually political factions in the Middle East, thought he's going to deliver. Remember, he went to Istanbul, delivered a speech there, then he went to Cairo and delivered an even more important speech. Now, those forces that are opinion makers in the Middle East, those who thought that President Obama is going to do the super pressure on Israel and is going to, change things in the Middle East by shifting America from being at war to being a force that is, he wasn't able to deliver. So the argument that he made, and he said, this is going to be U.S. policy, he wasn't able to deliver. But again, for reasons that are beyond him, the fact that the Middle East has changed the Arab Spring, he wasn't able to, in the middle of that Arab Spring, to go and work on one single issue because he could have lost Egypt and Tunisia and Libya and Syria and maybe the pressure on the oil and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. So you have to look at what Obama tried to promise, what he tried to deliver, and that's why there is a disappointment, but not among everybody in the Middle East, among the forces that thought he is going to go into their direction.
Walid Phares for joining us today from Bucharest, and Meir Javandafar from Cali, Colombia. And thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. Stay with us.